Nobody wanted this horse. Not for $2,500, not for any price. He lost his first 17 races, and trainers called him too lazy and too awkward to ever be worth feeding properly. And then this same unwanted, overlooked horse beat the best the entire sport had to offer, taking down a Triple Crown champion, running the best race of his life. This is how the horse nobody wanted beat everyone. His name was Seabiscuit. He was bought for $8,000 after nobody would touch him at $2,500. And this is the story of how the worst horse anyone could find became the one no champion could beat. Seabiscuit was born on May 23, 1933 at Claiborne Farm in Paris, Kentucky. His sire was Hardtack, a son of the legendary Man o' War, but Seabiscuit himself looked nothing like a champion. He was small, stocky, and awkward, with a heavy, almost donkeyish build that made him look more like a farm horse than a racehorse. He even slept strangely, sprawled flat on his side like a dog instead of standing the way most horses rest. Trainers who saw him used the word lazy, some said worse. His first trainer was Sonny Jim Fitzsimmons, a man who had already trained Triple Crown winners and knew exactly what a champion looked like. He took one look at this colt and decided he was not it. Fitzsimmons used Seabiscuit as a workhorse, running him into the ground in minor races just to toughen up the more promising horses around him. As a 2-year-old, Seabiscuit started 35 times. He lost his first 17 races in a row. He was entered in claiming races at $2,500, a price that announces to the entire racing world that you do not believe in this horse, and still nobody bought him. Then, at the Saratoga auction in August 1936, a wealthy car dealer named Charles Howard paid $8,000 for him anyway, on the recommendation of a quiet, unconventional trainer named Tom Smith. Howard himself knew something about long odds. He had arrived in San Francisco with almost nothing and built a fortune selling automobiles before he ever bought a racehorse. When Smith first laid eyes on Seabiscuit at Suffolk Downs that summer, the horse was 200 pounds underweight, refusing to eat, pacing his stall, and lunging at the grooms who tried to handle him. He was mean, restive, and half wild from being pushed too hard for too long. Smith did something almost nobody else in racing was doing at the time. He stopped pushing. He gave Seabiscuit high-quality hay, let him sleep as late as he wanted, took him on long, slow gallops instead of hard workouts, and gave him a stable companion so he would not be so alone. Within a year, the horse everyone had given up on won 11 of 15 starts and became the leading money earner in the entire country. He paired the horse with a quiet, struggling jockey named Red Pollard, a man who understood what it meant to be overlooked himself. One race remained that would define everything. On November 1st, 1938, at Pimlico, Seabiscuit was matched head-to-head against War Admiral, the reigning Triple Crown winner, a horse so dominant and so feared that he went off as the overwhelming 1-4 favorite. 40,000 people packed the track. Over 40 million more listened on the radio, one of the largest audiences in American history for any sporting event. Because War Admiral hated starting gates, the race began with a simple bell. What almost nobody outside the stable knew was that Tom Smith had spent weeks secretly retraining Seabiscuit to explode out of the bell the instant it rang, using a rigged alarm clock and the crack of a whip to condition the reflex. War Admiral's connections had no idea. Red Pollard, who had broken his leg before the race and could not ride, sent a telegram to the jockey who would replace him, a message that read, "There is one sure way of winning with the biscuit. You ride War Admiral." Pollard's instructions were specific. Ease up just enough mid-race to let War Admiral draw level, let the great champion look Seabiscuit in the eye the way he had broken every other horse's spirit before, and trust that something extra would answer back the moment that happened. It worked exactly as planned. Seabiscuit shot out to an early lead that stunned the crowd. Then, following Pollard's strategy, his jockey eased up just enough to let War Admiral draw level, let the great champion look Seabiscuit in the eye, certain he would break his spirit the way he had broken every other horse. Instead, Seabiscuit found something extra. He pulled away again and would not be caught, winning by 4 lengths in track record time. War Admiral, the undefeated Triple Crown champion, had just run the fastest mile and 3/16 of his entire career, and he still lost. Seabiscuit was named Horse of the Year for 1938. He finished his career with 89 starts, 33 wins, and what was then a record amount of prize money. He died in 1947 and was inducted into the Racing Hall of Fame in 1958, the horse that every expert in the sport had once agreed was worthless. So how does a horse with 17 straight losses become the horse nobody could beat? Part of the answer is simple compassion. Tom Smith looked at a broken, abused animal and treated him with patience instead of force, and the horse responded. Part of it is genuine deception, a trained reflex that no one saw coming until the bell rang. And part of it may simply be that the racing establishment, for all its expertise, looked at a horse who did not fit the mold and assumed that meant he could not win. There are skeptics who point out that War Admiral's own connections made mistakes that day, underestimating a rival they should have taken more seriously, and that a single match race, however dramatic, does not erase a legitimate Triple Crown. That is fair. But it does not change what happened on the track. The numbers, the times, and the 4-length margin are not in dispute. So here is the question worth sitting with. If Sonny Jim Fitzsimmons had simply given this horse one real chance instead of 17 punishing workouts, would the world have discovered Seabiscuit years earlier? And how many champions are being overlooked right now for the exact same reasons? Tell me what you think in the comments below. And thanks for watching. If this story stayed with you, subscribe and stick around, because history is full of legends like Seabiscuit, champions and outcasts the textbooks barely mention, and we are going to bring every single one of them back to life.